The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Way to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app.
Download now for free.
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Here we go, Vol Twitter. We've got a lot to get to, involve fans and everywhere, wherever you are. A big show lined up. The Warren Report with Jacob Warren, brought to you by Peak IV Hydration, coming up later in the program. Also, some of you have questioned Josh Heupel and his play calling. We'll get to that. And we'll talk to Jacob Warren about 4 things that Tennessee needs to accomplish in the off week. Also, the emotions of what Tennessee went through over the weekend, because there was video evidence, in case you didn't believe him, and I didn't, that this game meant a little bit more to Josh Heupel, and I think it certainly did. And for those that didn't see our post-game show, kudos to the Vols and what they were able to do. We're going to have the report card, torchbearers, and a lot more. Also, an SEC coach that we thought was on the way up until maybe this season is thrown under the bus by a former player, and a good one. We'll have the stat of the day, this day in Tennessee sports history, and also our SEC power rankings and a recap of a very interesting weekend in college football. You know that I'm going to ask you to do this. Hit the like and subscribe button. That helps us reach more people, and we greatly appreciate it. Caleb, we discussed the Tennessee game over the weekend. I continue to say, despite those social media, that it was an incredibly well-coached game. And we can go ahead and start that in the poll question in some shape, form, or fashion. If you want to put it on YouTube, we shall discuss. First, I ask this. How are you, Caleb?
I am good. How are you doing, Dave?
Never better. I'm ready to rock. So let's talk about this poll question. And it's brought to you by Banks & Jones, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Other attorneys say they'll go to trial. They won't. BanksandJones.com. So how do you want to set up the poll question this morning before we get into some X's and O's and my strong take on the fact that I believe more than ever that Tennessee will win a championship under Josh Heupel? And I'm not talking about an SEC championship, which unfortunately, Caleb is right, is going to be secondary to a natty. Although I've tried to fight that. It's just a simple fact now. But Caleb, how do we want to put this whole question together? How about something?
Already got it.
You got it. What is it?
What did you think of Tennessee's conservative play calling at OU? Way too conservative or brilliant?
That's okay. I think I know where, but just so those that didn't see the postgame show, where do you stand?
I'm brilliant. Not me, I'm brilliant, but like, no, I
That's a drop. That's a drop. I'm going to go back and pull that from the show and have that on my hotkey. Caleb going, I'm brilliant.
I lean brilliant, and I was defending it in the time. Look, as someone who put money on Nico Iamaleava winning the Heisman at the beginning of the year, did I want to see some more throws from Nico Iamaleava? Yes. But, Dave, we watched, do you remember the 2017 Super Bowl when the Falcons blew the 28-3 lead?
Yes.
And they kept throwing it with Matt Ryan, trying to put their foot on the gas, and all you got to do is just, even if you don't get the first down on that 3rd and 1, just run it. What you absolutely can't do is turn it over. You know you're dominating their offense. You know they can't move the ball. Why would you give them any short field on a turnover when you're up 12-3, 19-3? I thought the most brilliant thing he did was at the opening drive of the second half, he gets into field goal range, and he gets an easy field goal from Max Gilbert, and he says, Nico Iamaleava has fumbled twice because of poor protection. We're not going to mess up any chance to make this a 3-score lead. Run it 3 times, kick the field goal. I mean, that was brilliant coaching.
I'm with you. Let's go ahead and get to it. And it is today's tough question, as it's brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Okay, was Tennessee too conservative in the win against Oklahoma, or do you believe, like me, that Josh Heupel has shown you another side to his coaching, which makes him an elite coach? In another way, vice versa, as they say, Nick Saban did this in the middle of his career. He turned from a running coach and a ball control coach to a coach that wasn't afraid to utilize Lane Kiffin and the passing game, and did so at a high level. Still, though, I would argue those were elite defenses. In 2019, LSU won a championship with an incredible offense. However, that defense was still top 30 in the nation and likely had some garbage yards run up against it. The simple fact is, unless you want to be TCU and put together a team that can occasionally make a run and get hammered in the college football playoffs, you should love Josh Heupel right now. And if you don't, you're off base. Take it a step further. Did you like the 2022 baseball Vols more than the 2024 baseball Vols? Those young ones out there, do you know Tennessee's offense was conservative to the players' detriment in some cases in 1998 when they won a championship? So I ask you, Caleb Calhoun, do Tennessee fans and do you want a Morgan Wallen type show with a lot of touchdown passes, or do you want a championship? And to me, I don't even think it's close. I know we agree. We're not going to be disingenuous and argue the other point. One of us do that, but I will tell you that I will respect your opinion if you put it on the message board if you think Tennessee was too conservative. You can also comment if you're watching on Twitter, and we'll address those. But I want to respect those opinions out there, because I saw some people that I really respect their football opinions on social media, Caleb. But you and I just see it a completely different way, or we see it the same way, but different from those people.
Yeah, I don't think it's an either or, like it's mutually exclusive. Where like, you have to be this defensive minded, boring offense team to win titles. So I think you can light it up, and we've seen that year over year. Spurrier has a national title. He lit it up. Nick Saban did light it up a few times later in his career when he won national titles. We've seen, you brought up Ed Orgeron. I can go back to, that 2001 Miami team. I know they were just loaded everywhere, so I assume they lit it up offensively too. So, plenty of history. There's plenty of history to prove that big offenses can win championships. But yes, you do have to be able to win slugfest every now and then. And Tennessee winning that slugfest did show another element to Heupel's game. And by the way, we saw this last year when Tennessee went against Texas A&M. Heupel did not have a quarterback who was a fit for his system, and he had to play extremely conservative. And he held on for a 20-13 win thanks to a brilliant punt by Jackson Ross, a brilliant special teams call that led to a punt return touchdown by D. Williams, and this just really good defensive coaching. I think it's not that they'd rather do that. I think Heupel, trust me, you know Josh Heupel to his core wants to score 40 points every single time he's out.
If he had three completely healthy tackles, that would give you depth instead of two and that were healthy and one which was struggling and another that was a sophomore, he would have taken a lot more deep shots. You need to be really aware that Tennessee was another snap away from another strip sack. They already had two. How many do you need to see, guys, out there in the ether? How many strip sacks do you need to see before you say to yourself, Tennessee had some real issues at offensive tackle? Caleb, I'll go so far as to say, if they had run a 5-step, 7-step drop, which they rarely do, or just throw it from the shotgun with any sort of delay whatsoever over about 1.2 seconds, they were going to give up another sack. 1 in 3 times. And I'm not exaggerating. I think it's 1 in 3 times they would have given up at least a hit on Nico, if not a sack and possibly another strip sack.
I totally agree. And that changes the complexion of the game. Let's think about the first half for a minute, or the second half, that opening drive that's where people I think were maddest. It was 19-3, and it was like 3rd and 6 or 7, and Heupel called a draw that got stuffed. And everybody was saying, why not go for the first down? What are you doing? Here's what he's doing. If you take that snap and you try to get the first down and Nico gets strip sacked, and by the way, strip sacks can easily be run back for a touchdown when they're on that side of the field. You know that, Dave, because there's a lot of room for the ball to go.
Well, yeah, and they gave the ball up at the 5-yard line. And they were blessed in both instances where the defense got the ball right back.
Exactly. Oklahoma could have easily gotten a strip sack and run it back for a touchdown. All of a sudden, 19-3 is 19-9, 19-10, maybe even 19-11 if they get the 2-point conversion. Why risk that when you can just kick the field goal and go up 22-3 and it's a 3-score game? And you know that Oklahoma's offense can't score to save their lives. Guys, we're going to talk a little bit later. Like, I know the defense, and they take pride, and they weren't happy about Michael Hawkins leading Oklahoma to 2 scores in the final quarter. Some of that was working clock and scheme. Dave, if they wanted to, they could have shut Oklahoma out and kept them out of the end zone completely the whole game. If you go back and watch.
Yes, and I found another quote incredibly insightful too. Did you know they prepared for Michael Hawkins? I can't remember which player let that slip, but that means that Josh Heupel had himself a little spy over at Oklahoma.
That is true.
That means he knew it was close, that you could see Arnold Jackson hit the bench. They were ready for Michael Jenkins, and they were going to force him to beat him with his arm. I'm going to tell you.
Michael Hawkins.
Oh, David Hawkins, excuse me.
Michael Hawkins.
Michael Hawkins.
Michael Jenkins and David Hawkins. Well,
yeah, I don't know who that is. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what fan base that you need to emulate in these coming weeks to both keep your sanity and to realize that Tennessee can indeed win a national championship. But Nico may not win the Heisman because of it. I think they can do both. But right now, I want to also address those that think that Nico didn't play all that well. Somebody called me a liar, that I overhyped him. Them's fighting words. I'll address it. And the fan base you should emulate after a quick message from Banks and Jones. That's not the right one. Sorry. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. I'll tell you, right, who Tennessee's fan base needs to emulate, and it might make you sick to your stomach, but it's Georgia. Georgia's fan base. What did they do in the Commonwealth when they went up to Kentucky and they sleptwalked through that game? Now, I think that could end up getting Georgia beat at some point, and I'm not saying that Tennessee's coaches want to win like that, but I don't hear Georgia fans going ballistic over the fact that they barely beat Kentucky and the fact that they have those games crop up on their schedule. Tennessee's not at the Georgia level yet because of lack of offensive line depth, but they're closer than you think. Caleb, they're going to win some games like Georgia because they're more talented.
Yeah, they are. And by the way, that's not even how they beat Oklahoma. They didn't sleepwalk through this game.
No.
They were hurt on the outside. Heupel acknowledged, by the way, that Oklahoma threw a new defensive look that they hadn't gotten prepared for. And so it was a combination of Oklahoma throwing a new defensive look. They were on the road in a night game. They have 2 hurt tackles. And they have a redshirt freshman quarterback who, for all of his ability, he missed a couple of decisions on the read option. He missed a couple of RPOs on Saturday. I think we can safely say that. I think there's one at the beginning where he should have handed it off and he pulled it and tried to throw a quick screen. Huge mistake. All of those things combined, when you know the other team can't score, you're going to play conservatively. It's not like it wasn't even like the Georgia-Kentucky game where Georgia really did just sleepwalk. And then at the end, they're like, all right, we know we got to go make a play. Carson Beck, go make us a play and win this game. They were never in that situation. I mean, they had complete control, 25-15. Guys, if Josh Heupel wanted to win this game 40-3, he could have.
Not with the tackle situation the way it was.
You don't think he could have dropped 40?
No, I think he would have
for 2 field goals.
Yeah, I think Nico would have gotten. I think he needed the points. I think Nico would have gotten sacked 1 in 3 plays with the tackles they had in there.
Okay, well then he could have won this game 33-3. How about that?
Sure. Okay, I'll take that. But he also could have lost it by 10 if they go with the passing attack that everybody loved in 2022, right?
Yes. Here's what this game was. You know what this game was, Dave? This was the reverse of what Georgia did to Tennessee in 2022. Which is to say that the score showed 27-13, but if you watched that game, you thought, man, Kirby Smart could have absolutely blown out Tennessee if he wanted to, but he just didn't want to give Tennessee a chance to get back in the game. And so he played clock. That's exactly what Josh Heupel did in this game. Josh Heupel was capable of blowing out Oklahoma, but he played clock because of the tackle situation. And I think more than this game, Dave, I think the big reason he did it, there was no reason to risk Nico getting hurt.
Amen. And I want to commend Nico for the way he played. He had one pass that he threw at a guy's feet on purpose because he was well covered. Those that aren't football aficionados are going to say that's an errant pass. No, that was a throwaway, so you don't get intentional grounding. He had a couple of others out of bounds. No, he's not trying to throw it to somebody. I mean, he's not trying to hit a receiver out of bounds. Those are throwaways. I thought for a redshirt freshman, he did a masterful job. Dwight Edward Townsend says Tennessee scoring 22 points in any game is pathetic. Well, what's pathetic is what was left to Josh Heupel. What's pathetic is the roster that Jeremy Pruitt left him, which has been all but remedied except for depth on the offensive line. And other than that, everything, in my opinion, is going according to plan. Anything else you want to close on, Caleb, concerning the way Tennessee won that game?
No, I mean, I think it's everything you said is right on. It was Josh Heupel. It went according to plan. Again, scoring 25 to win a game is not pathetic, particularly against Oklahoma. Guys are also forgetting Oklahoma, for all their flaws on offense, they have a top 10 defense talent-wise, and they have one of the best defensive coordinators in the country as their head coach. So,
amen. We didn't say Brent Venables' name enough, but for those of you that don't know, he is one of the best defensive minds in college football. So I didn't hear that he threw a whole new defense out there, but it doesn't surprise me. He knew how big this game was. It's also huge for Josh Heupel. So we'll visit on the emotions of the win and have a great clip for you a little bit later in the Warren Report, brought to you by Peak IV, coming up with Jacob Warren. VFL, I don't say former Vol because it sounds rough. VFL Jacob Warren will join us. But the torchbearers and more from the game on Saturday as we hand out some hardware off the Hook Sports.
I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, BanksJones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, if you want to go back, if you're under a rock or hungover from the Morgan Wallen concert on Friday and maybe went to it on Sunday, I don't know that anybody double dip on that thing, but if you did, you can read complete coverage on Tennessee's win over Oklahoma. You can also read the report card that Caleb has put together and the torch bearers as we give out our awards to those top balls. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Caleb, do you want to start with a report card or torch bearers? Your call, my man.
We'll start with the torch bearers because it was really hard to zero in on who the players who deserved it because a lot of them deserved it.
Yes, I'm interested to see where you go. I purposely do not read your column, not that I don't like your writing, but I like to see the direction you go and it be spontaneous on the air. So let's go ahead and start a poll question, or I can do that as we go along. And you give me your torch bearers, and these are how many players that stood out for the Vols?
It's always five, and that makes it very hard because sometimes people can't make the list, but this is a very elite, superb, competitive list.
Okay, and let's do it right now. I'll tell you if I agree or not that these players were one of the top 5 performers in the game on Saturday against the Sooners. Here we go.
All right, so the first, and this is a big shout out to Dave because Dave, you predicted this. And I'm speaking, of course, of Jackson Moy.
Oh, there you go.
Had 2 tackles for a loss in this game, was actually one of the most disruptive defensive linemen on the field on Saturday. Again, and we've been saying this all year, you could give the entire defensive line torchbearers, but you have to pick players. And in this case, honestly, the best interior lineman was Jackson Moy on the day.
Oh, well, Dave, look at you. Hey now. All right. I believe, and I was told in the preseason that they were saving Jackson Moy for this game. They were going to make sure he was 100% good to go and a bit of a surprise.
And he delivered because he was amazing. The other guy who stepped up. And
I hinted at it, but I didn't give anything away. All right, go ahead.
The other guy who stepped up, and again, Tennessee has got I call it the hybrid edge rusher back. And what I'm talking about is the guy that can do 3 technique or 5 technique, Dave, but stays up on the line. You know what I'm talking about? That could play in a 3-4 or defensive tackle in a 4-3. Yes. And Tyree West fits that mold. Dominic Bailey fits that mold. Both of those guys have broken out, but all of a sudden, out of the blue, Jason Jenkins comes in and steps up. And Jason Jenkins just blows past his guard for a safety. And to me, that was the play of the game. So he's on this list.
That's crazy.
I can't go that far. I don't think Jason Jenkins is one of the top 5 players, but that's fine. All right, what else you got?
Big plays count, by the way. He was also in on a sack. So
I agree. All
right, number 3. I only picked one offensive player from this game, and it is a guy who I wanted to see get a touchdown, and he came close, but didn't happen. But Brew McCoy was the star of the game offensively, and it wasn't just 4 catches for 92 yards. Dave, you saw this. You talk about dictating coverage. Brew McCoy rolled the secondary over a lot, which was why Nico had that touchdown pass to Dante Thornton to begin with a lot of times, or a lot of other passes like that. And that first catch Brew had where he shed like 5 tackles to get inside the 10-yard line, and then the second one, which was a diving grab. I mean, I think Brew's presence allowed the offense to run at a much more efficient clip than it would have otherwise.
Well, and don't doubt this as well. Part of their running game benefited from his downfield blocking. If you ever if your son plays receiver and you want to teach him how to be an all-around receiver, just watch Brew McCoy. And you may have to go to the game because we can't always see the defensive backfield, but just watch him and how he blocks on running plays and say, son, do that.
Yes, and I agree. And that type of effort translates. I mean, it translates well. Did you guys notice yesterday? The player who Brew McCoy reminds me most of, Juwan Jennings. See, he had 3 touchdowns yesterday.
He did.
And it's about time. I can't believe an NFL team hadn't realized it. Oh, you may not be the fastest receiver, but man, you're physical, and man, you like to hit, and man, you like to block. Let's get this guy the ball. And I feel like that's for McCoy.
It's a great comparison. All right, your next guy, I like a lot, like a whole lot. I think he's Tennessee's best defensive back since Alontae Taylor. And to be really honest with you, I might like him a little bit better than that. It's brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards To ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. HOOK for 10% off. I love Jermon McCoy.
Yes, he's number 2 on this list, and you can make a case for number 1. He's shutting down one side of the field, in case you guys aren't noticing. I mean, even Alontae Taylor didn't do that. Alontae Taylor was a lockdown corner who did his job extremely well, so you didn't have to roll a safety over for help all the time. But there's a difference between that, Dave, and shutting down an entire side of the field. And I think teams are about to give up targeting him. And I think that's going to be sooner rather than later. I mean, he had an epic that interception was one thing, because honestly, that was more of an errant pass. But that deflection that he had on the drive before, that's an NFL type of deflection. That's an NFL type of play where you can jump in front of the receiver, knock it away, and not wrap your hand around the back of the receiver, which is how pass interference so often accidentally gets called. I mean, that was incredible. He's an NFL cornerback.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I hate it when people say Nico. Like I do a television show, and there's somebody that wants to talk about Nico every single time. And I'm kind of like, okay, I know he's good. I would have Nico on this list despite the pedestrian numbers because of his ability to manage a game. Maybe that's a reach, Caleb. Maybe that's something, innate. Now, ball security, a strip sack's a strip sack. When a guy comes around the edge and knocks out of your hands, it's mostly on the tackle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you could have better ball security. So you got to ding him for that. I don't have any problem with him not being on your list. I guess I'm saying I could make an argument for him to be on the list. And before we get to the report card, I'm going to set up the poll question, and I'm going to include Nico in it for that very reason. I'm just curious because I know you're very positive, Nico, but I'm curious to see some analytical numbers when we put up the 4 guys that I've got in the poll question. Who is the Vols torchbearer? Jackson Moy, Brew McCoy, Nico Iamaleava. And for the record, what did he think of Tennessee's conservative play calling at OU? I love our audience. Brilliant. 75%. Way too conservative. 24%. All right. Report card is now. Start us off.
You didn't even let me name my player of the game.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that would have been your number 1 guy.
No, Jermon McCoy's number 2. My number 1 is and we got to send this guy a shout out, Joshua Josephs. I mean, this dude forced 2 fumbles in the first half.
He did. No question about it. He's the player of the game. No question about it. Joshua Josephs is on the list. He's the one you should vote for, but if you want to vote for Brew or Nico because they touched the ball, that's fine. Report card time. Caleb, who leads us off?
Quarterbacks, and this will kind of bolster your point. Even though it was pedestrian numbers, I give Nico an A-. I don't hold those fumbles on him at all, by the way. I think he, again, given the flow of the game and the situation and the way Heupel called the game, I don't think there's much more Nico could have done. I don't think there's much more any quarterback could have done.
Hey, now. I have no argument with that. I think an A- is perfect. Yeah, I put a little bit on the lack of ball security because I think he's young, stronger hands. But again, that's nitpicking, kind of like when I said that he should have just taken the sack when he had a bust against NC State. That's like an elite quarterback type of level. So is ball control. All right, go ahead. What's next?
All right, so next is going to be running backs, and I got an A- with that. Dylan Sampson, Deshaun Bishop both fought hard. Wide receivers is an A. Tight ends is a C. Offensive line, D+, but they were banged up. But I can't look past that pass pro. Is that fair?
Yeah, but I would have graded it on a curve because I don't know. We each handle that differently. I used to grade it on a curve due to injuries, but nevertheless,
I graded based on who played that day. And
that's good.
Yeah, and it was
strip sacks. It's pretty hard to get a high grade.
Yeah, exactly. Defensive line, A+. Linebackers, A. Defensive backs, A-. The only reason of the A- is Michael Hawkins' last 2 touchdowns late in the fourth quarter. You side with me on defense on that?
Yeah, thought you're golden.
And then just to get the special teams and coaching, punting A- would have been an A+, but Jackson Arnold did have a punt go for a touchback. Place kicking, A+. Max Gilbert hit all 3 field goals. Josh Heupel sailed every kickoff for a touchback. But Dave, return game is a D-. Squirrel White he tried to field a punt early in the game where he went back and dove to catch it on his own 5, which is like rule number 1, don't do. And it was just a real bad day for him on the return game. But Coaching is an A+. I don't care what anybody says. Play calling was superb. Play calling was perfect. Coaching is an A+.
I believe more in Josh Heupel after that game than I ever have before, and I thought he'd win a championship before. 2 minutes. Hit the like and subscribe button. It'll be the Warren Report with VFL Jacob Warren. I'm running a little late, Jacob. I can see you down in the window. I apologize. It'll be brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. And we're going to talk the true emotions that were behind the scenes with Josh Heupel last week. They cropped up in the post game. We'll discuss how big this was for Josh Heupel in 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2018 Ford Mustang convertible, 24,550, 2023 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend, 29,789, 2022 Ford Escape SEL all-wheel drive, 26,975. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Ooh.
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
As I've said before, the greatest way that you can contribute to our show is support our advertisers and our sponsors, which have been vetted. And I can go ahead and tell you that our site's not about pop-up ads, that people we endorse are not just thrown at us from some national media company. I had a client that over the weekend, so I just want you to know, a lot of people come to me and say, I see you on Dave Hooker's site. Why? Because it doesn't have pop-up site, it doesn't have pop-up ads, and it's free, no subscription required. So offthehooksports.com. offthehooksports.com. It's time for some Jacob Warren right now. The Warren Report brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. If we can drop that, Caleb, into the chat, we'll go ahead and visit with Jacob right now. Jacob's looking a little blurry, but I think his camera might digitize at some point. How are you, sir?
What's up? Am I blurry?
You're a little blurry. I'm not sure what's happening, though. Your handsome good looks aren't coming through. Let's try it again. That's slightly better. There we go. Maybe, sort of, kind of. That works. All right.
Turn it off, turn it back on. Here we go.
There you go.
What's
All
up?
right. Jacob, we're fantastic. So we want to get into the emotions that Josh Heupel was feeling last week. But let's start with this. Just your thoughts on the way Tennessee won that football game, because I said it, I think, before we went to break, I believe more in Josh Heupel being a championship coach than I did on Friday, and I already believed it on Friday.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, honestly, I think the way they won the game was good defense. I think that, man, just the ability to shut down the run game, right? I believe OU had 36 rushing yards on a lot of attempts, right? And for those front seven guys, man, that's crucial, right? That's the biggest thing in this league in the SEC is being able to run the ball, being able to stop the run. So I think you start there, and then obviously you have some great plays in the secondary. You have some great secondary players, right, that we've added to this roster, and that we lost a lot of guys in the back end, and I think that was a big point of of worry for a lot of people. I think is how those guys were going to just hang in there against SEC competition or whatever it may be. And man, they did a great job this weekend. The D line did great, linebackers did great. I was super happy to see just kind of how the defense performed and the offense too. But specifically, I think the reason that we won that game was because the defense was able to, get the offensive guys kind of going, keep them in it early. Obviously there was, kind of this lull, this weird kind of slow start that both teams had offensively. And it was because both defenses came to play. So, I think that was the key to success for us, this past weekend.
Okay. I want to get your perspective as a player that still talks to a former player of VFL that also talks to a lot of current players. I'm sure it's not like you cut off all ties when you graduate. Jacob, how big do you think this was for Tennessee's players to win it for Josh Heupel? Now, Cooper Mays wasn't even aware last week that Josh Heupel had been fired by Oklahoma, but I'm sure as the week progressed, everybody knew.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. You have these games where, you come in Monday and you're like, all right, guys, this one's personal. I think that's the key word. That's the buzzword is personal. Right. And so everything in this game is personal, and whether people tell you it is or isn't, everything in this game is personal. Right. But, with a game like that, I think it comes up a lot too when we play, teams like Missouri or teams, just like these other spots that a lot of our coaching staff has spent time and, they still know a lot of the people there. Obviously, Coach Hype had a lot of ties and relations to the actual coaches, at OU with Venables and with their offensive coordinator and just a bunch of different people. And, obviously, I try to put myself in his shoes, what I'm saying, and say, okay, if I was in his position, right, and I say I was coaching wherever, right, and or say I was coaching at Tennessee, right, and Tennessee, lets me go, whatever, for whatever reason, and I end up coming back to Neyland Stadium, how would I feel walking into Neyland Stadium? You know what I'm saying? After all the history, all the experience, whatever, all the great, all the bad, just whatever it may be, how would I feel? And I feel for him, man, because I can only imagine the emotional just roller coaster he's been through all week. And he explained it a little bit, and I think that's Hype's way of getting emotional is kind of, he slows down a little bit. And you could tell just in the look of his eyes that, the words he's saying are one thing. He's saying it's not about him, which it's not. And it won't be. It never will be. And I think he wants it to be that way. But, he says those words, but you could tell, in the back of his head 100% that meant the world to him. So that's very good.
I want to ask you to why Josh Heupel didn't make more of it leading into the week. I think I know the answer, but I want to get your thoughts.
You know the answer.
Oh yeah, but I want to get your thoughts. And let's pull up that clip that we were going to play, Caleb. Excuse me. And it's brought to you by Peak IV Hydration, South Knoxville and Sevierville. Wide range of IV treatments. Like I said earlier, support our sponsors. That's why we're here. Peak IV Hydration. Over 100 5-star reviews, and you can order online too. The patches, Jacob, that will absolutely take care of those that might have some sort of vitamin deficiency or that maybe rocked it a little bit too hard at the Morgan Wallen concert.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We'll hear that. All right, let's go ahead and play this clip now from Josh Heupel. It's emotional, and I just want to ask Jacob what it means to him to see this.
This thing coming back to normal was never about me. It was not.
That's exactly what I'm talking about right there.
But
when he stops like that.
I appreciate you all having a little extra for me.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's him, man. He really means that. And I gotta tell you, man, you could just see it in his eyes. And everybody, it'll kind of be rowdy, whatever. And he starts talking, and he starts to feel emotion or whatever, and starts kind of trying to get his point across like that. That place just goes silent, man. And he's got that room, you know what I mean, just wrapped around his finger, dude. Like and I think you love seeing stuff like that as a player because it's been just the journey's been so tough and he's hard on the guys for sure, you know what I'm saying? But he does a good job of slowing down and showing guys that he cares about what he's doing, you know what I mean? And that he cares about the players and that's him sincerely thanking the players. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows he's humble. He knows exactly the dynamic and things wouldn't go without the guys, right? But things also wouldn't go without him. So that's awesome to see.
It's really
Jacob,
cool.
I know a couple of years ago, and I'm probably, and I don't expect to because if I were a player, I wouldn't give one. So I don't expect a straight answer from you on this. But I know that when you guys played Missouri, it felt like Josh Heupel wanted to punch one in at the very end because they didn't hire him as head coach.
Yeah.
He played it a little bit differently this time, which was I'm just trying to get out of here with the win, and I'm not going to humiliate OU. If the situation were different and you think he had a chance, though, without the tackle situation, wanted to keep Nico healthy, do you think there's a chance he would have tried to punch an extra one in the fourth quarter?
I think the goal of the game is to win by as many as you can. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win by 1 or if you win by 100, right? It doesn't matter. You win. But, obviously I can't make that call. I don't know. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. But, I heard you guys talking about this earlier, and I may be assuming, but I think this is what you're talking about when you say this kind of solidifies that Hype is a championship coach, and this team could be a championship team, and just the way that, he obviously made a conscious decision to say, we are going to control this game with our offense. We're going to control this game with our defense. Yes, you might get the ball back here. We're bend, don't break, man. If we give you the ball, like, they got almost every single time that we turn the ball over to them, we got the ball right back, right? So, these momentum shifts and everything like that, like the way that Hype was able to control the game, just with play call, with tempo, with poise, and just everything, and understanding the clock, understanding, okay, it might be better to do this here, and just everything, man. Watching the game he did a great job, and the guys did a great job of executing. And I think when it comes down to it, you for sure might want to punch one more in, but end of the day is like, dude, like let's be happy with the win and let's just, move on, get back on that plane and head back to Knoxville.
As someone who's still affiliated with the program, I know it meant a lot to Heupel, but how much do you think he established a culture where, I know Amari Thomas said last week, we're not here to win this for Heupel, we're here to win this for Tennessee because that's the culture he instilled. But do you think with the players there was a little bit just independently of, guys, we got to do this for Hype? Because
100%. 100%. Yeah, that'll be any week that you go into. Like I'm talking, you have these talks of this, they give you the background of, okay, Hype played there, Hype coached there, some things went down, whatever. Hype no longer is coaching there, like it's all like you as you start to kind of feel it out and you start to kind of understand the magnitude of the situation, then you'd for sure start maybe putting a little bit extra in. You maybe stay 30 extra minutes and watch more film, or out there on the field, you feel like you can't go no more, man. Like it's time to just nut up and you just go do it. So I think the guys are motivated to do that without it being one of those games like Oklahoma or Missouri, but it for sure shows up at a time like that.
Set our poll question up, and then I'm going to ask Jacob the poll question. Caleb, I've got it up there now. Go ahead and throw that out if you don't mind.
All right, so the poll question is, what is better, winning with the great offense, winning with the smothering defense? And our fans are very old school. That's what we're seeing.
By old school, you mean they all said defense, huh?
Yeah, so we're 90% said defense.
Classic. Yeah. Sounds about right. I don't know, dude.
Jacob,
I don't know.
let me throw this at you because I did a little bit of research, and I know that Alabama switched to a more up-tempo style after winning championships, old school ball control, but they still controlled the ball and they had a great defense. 2019 LSU had a special offense, but they were still a top 30 defense. I would argue that you're much more likely to win a championship with a great defense than a great offense. A great offense, in my opinion, means you're TCU and you get in, but then you get blasted by Georgia.
What I was about to say, a great offense will flash and will get you where you want to be, but I feel like it's hard. It's hard to have a great offense and a not so good defense. I think if you have a good defense, a solid defense that can get third down stops, can keep people out of their red area, can, maybe once or twice a game stop someone in their own red area, force field goals. I think that's when you can that's when you really see good offenses really excel because they can put up, it reminds me of, I'm not saying our defense was bad at all, but I'm just saying we scored the most points per year. What was it 2022 or was it?
Yes, I'll say it. Your defense was bad.
I didn't say that.
I know.
I did not say that.
And I'm not being hard on any of those players, Jacob. It's just the roster was just left in a mess by Jeremy Pruitt.
And that's exactly what I want to say is that it has nothing to do with the players. We had so much talent on that team and, everything has come together now, right? That wasn't a point of the program where things were still coming together. But our offense was very, very high power, high tempo, scored a lot of points. That won us a lot of games. And you're in a game with Kentucky. I remember Kentucky didn't punt the ball a single time. And we won the game, 42-45?
Yes,
and we scored, that. You know what I'm saying? We scored 45 points. They didn't punt once. And we won the game with that's so unheard of. And I don't know, for a team to score 42 points and not punt and then lose is pretty crazy. And that just shows you the power of a great offense and the ability to just move the ball down the field, throw deep shots, score a lot of points. But again, you could say if our defense was super stout, you wouldn't have to score 45 points, right? You would only have to score whatever. So they truly, man, it's a game where they truly go hand in hand, and you can't be good without one or the other, and you can't be great without good both sides of the ball. And the whole chat saying defense wins championships, all that stuff, which I completely agree with. Okay, cool. Which I completely agree with, right?
Yeah. I'm going to throw some crazy numbers at you, but first, these are numbers where Tennessee ranks in the nation in defense. First, tell us about our friends at Peak IV Hydration. They do great work, Jacob.
Man, offense, defense doesn't matter, man. They which whatever you're trying to do, man. If you're trying to protect yourself, you're trying to go get, maybe get rowdy on the weekend, whatever. They take care, man. They take care of people. Just the people in the shop are great, man. They always, doing everything by the book, making sure they're being safe, they're being clean, they're being, trying to protect you as a consumer. And like we've said, man, I've used it in my playing days and I've used it just on days where, say you're going to the water park or, you're going to the amusement. We go to Dollywood all the time, right up the street, right? Shout out Dollywood. But say you're just gonna, you just want to feel good. You want to, a little boost of energy, whatever. You can throw the patch on, go get IV, whatever it is, man. They always take care and truly have seen an impact in my life and it's kind of helped me feel good, feel my best. So shout out Peak Hydration.
PeakIVHydration.com. You can order the patches online. They gave me one to wear and it was awesome. And that day I felt fantastic and I will be back in. Here's some numbers that I think will blow you away. And Jacob, I don't know how much research you do into this, but like one of my favorite things to do is the day after a Saturday full of games to check where everybody ranks statistically, especially at this point in the season, because everybody's played somebody for the most part.
For the most part.
Maybe not Ole Miss. But anyway, Tim Banks' defense, number one in total defense in the nation. Number two against rushing defense in the nation. Number two in the nation in third down efficiency, stopping the other team on third down. 4 straight games under 75 rushing yards, 2 TDs allowed in the last 20 quarters, 1 pass play of 30-plus yards allowed all year.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a tough question. You ready?
Okay. All right.
This Tennessee team is better suited to win a national championship than 2022, in which you guys, before the Hendon Hooker injury and whatever happened at South Carolina, I don't need to get in the weeds there, but
sure,
before that, you guys were probably going to be in the college football playoff.
Right.
I think this team would have a better chance to win a national championship. Am I wrong?
One, I'm not on this team, so I don't know, but I do think, man, because I think of it like, okay, if the two teams were to play each other, right? If this year's team were to play that year's team, you know, who do I think would win, right? I think, you know, you got to go down the line, right? Offense, I think that team had an extremely, extremely talented, gifted, experienced quarterback. You know what I mean? It was coming to, you know, his second year in the program, right? So now he's coming back and he truly, man, knows exactly who he is, knows exactly what the team is, everything like that. So obviously that's a plus. But now you have this also extremely talented young quarterback that has so much energy and so much just charisma and just composure and the poise and everything that he plays with is spectacular, right? Obviously, we just talked about that defense. And you know, it's a defense truly that I, in 2022, probably would not wanted to see, right? I would not have wanted to deal with James Pierce. I would not have wanted to deal with Keenan Peely. I would not wanted to have to deal with, you know, Big O when he lines up in a 3 technique or any 5 technique. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys right now that I'm like, yeah, these guys are like, these are real dudes that are known around the nation for being just dominant on defense. And Hype said it last week the best, man. Tennessee's known for it. Dude, I don't know. I know I'm giving you a roundabout here. I don't know, man. Who knows, man? But we'll see. I think they have a chance, man. I think they always have a chance. And I think that, you know, it's just gonna, I think Vol fans and myself and just everybody that's around Tennessee football gets so excited, and their expectations just get sent through the roof every single year. And that's amazing. It's great. I think that it's perfect. I think that that's exactly what the team needs, because I've said it on this show with you before, Dave, like, nobody wants to win. I promise you, no fan, no anybody wants to win more than the people in that room. And it'll never be that way. No one will ever want to win more than the players. So if they have a lot of people that really want to win and really want to see them succeed behind them, man, I think that's just going to be the biggest thing, is just continuing to support those guys. And dude, if they drop a game, like, not the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? Especially now with 12 team, like everything will shake out. Everything will be just fine. Let's just kind of watch these guys progress and just hope that they can continue to grow through their SEC schedule. Because, I mean, this is really, when you think about it, this determines everything right now. It's not determined in December or in January. It's determined right now. Like, what can you do in these early games? How can you show the nation that you're worthy of being on this platform? And what are we even ranked right now? Is it 6 still?
No, they move up to 5th in the one that matters, the AP, the coaches.
They moved up to 5th.
Yeah, I love sports information directors. Actually, I don't, but they I think vote for the coaches in some cases. So I don't really take the coaches into consideration.
Sure. But man, either way, let's just enjoy it, man. I'm so happy for my guys that are still on the team. Of course, they're starting to think playoff, whatever. But they also know, everybody in that building knows, man, you got to take it 1 week at a time, and you got to just, that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to talk about the future. We're here to talk about, the things that we can't even, touch or control, but it's just on them to go out there and just week by week, man, just put in the work to go do it.
Two things before we let Jake. Oh, do you got something else, Ken?
Yeah, Jacob, I want to ask elephant in the room a little bit because we're talking about the defense and all of these things, but all the excitement was about Nico Iamaleava entering the year, and his numbers, while highly efficient, were somewhat pedestrian. I don't think that's anything to be concerned about. Dave doesn't think that's anything to be concerned about. I want to know your thoughts.
Yeah.
I think that was just the flow of the game and what they asked him to do on Saturday, right?
I agree. I mean, you watch. I think that numbers are they're just lofty, right? They're hard to kind of pinpoint exactly where they came from. It's hard to be like, okay, well, he only threw for what 190 some yards, right? And you can say only, right? But there's a certain point I can remember not too long ago when 200, throw passing yards was good. You know what I'm saying? And that was very, very impressive for the quarterback play or whatever it was. I can personally remember a time when that was the case, right? And so I think I got the numbers here. I think 194 pass and then 150 rushing. Like, you have two solid numbers, like, and that ball's touching that kid's hands every single play, man. And when I talk about the control of the game that Hype was able to instill, I'm talking about offense too. Like I remember the drive going into the half. We didn't end the half with the ball, but I think we ended up scoring with like a minute and 30 seconds, maybe a minute 40 seconds. Like, that drive started with 6 minutes or so on the clock. Like, this offense, man, if this offense goes 3 and out on tempo, that's about 45 seconds off the clock. So the ability for a quarterback who plays high tempo the whole entire game, all of his career, whatever, that's what we drill all the time. The ability to run a little 4-minute situation, control the clock, hand the ball off, trust running backs, trust the O-line, make a little dink throw here, there, whatever, and just trust the process, man. Understand that he doesn't have to try to air the ball at every play to go touch that 250 or 250 passing, 300 passing, whatever. I think it's good almost to see that he's not throwing for 200, 300 yards every single game, because that shows he's able to not take a step back at all, but he's able to see the bigger picture. He's able to understand it's not about him. You know what I'm saying? At all. The same way it's not about Hype, it's not about Nico. And I think that that's almost a harder conversation to have for a young quarterback than you really want it to be. But he's doing a great job. And I will continue to support him if he throws for 194 yards or 20 yards. It doesn't matter, man. If we're winning games and you know what I'm saying, everybody is competing hard and going out there to do everything they can, and that's all that he does, then that's amazing.
Yeah, Caleb, off the top of my head, I think he was it 12 of 21? Does that sound right?
No, it's 13 of 21.
13 of 21. Well, at least 4 of those were purposeful throwaways. So, I mean, I thought he was incredibly efficient, especially for a redshirt freshman. What he did. I got good news and bad news for you headed out the door, Jacob. Are you ready for this? You want the good or the bad first?
Give me the bad first, always.
Oh, the bad first, always. Okay, that's very mature of this young man. All right, who would win on our poll question? The 24 teams got you 81% to the 2022 team.
Dang, come on. Where's the poll? Hold on, I can't even see it. Do you have it on? Do you have it only on your screen? Where's the poll?
No, it's on our YouTube channel.
Crap.
So,
I'm just gonna vote a bunch of times for 2020.
Right. But however, there's this. If I can find it, look at this comment, which we probably will get each and every week because you're such a great dude. And Tony says, Jacob, as a Vol fan for 62 years, I really appreciate what you did at Tennessee. You're a great VFL, and I agree.
Thank you, sir. Tony, I appreciate it. Man, yeah, it's great to hear. I see people around town and stuff, and some people just say, hey, man, but some people truly, have nice words to say. So I very much appreciate you saying that, Tony.
Jacob, and also I will say, I don't think any tight end from this team could win a fight against Jacob Warren. So,
Come on. That's what matters, baby. Come on. It's all about me. It's all about me.
Jacob, have a blessed day and
awesome.
a fantastic week. We'll talk to you.
All right. I'm going to go play some golf. Y'all take care.
Not bad. Jacob Warren, we appreciate that. Nice enough to join us. Brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. I didn't want to say this in front of Jacob, but I don't think it would be close. I don't think the 2022 would even be close to 2024.
I mean, something Jacob acknowledged that it's not like Tennessee's offense couldn't have put up those 2022 numbers. It's not like they couldn't.
Against that secondary, Tennessee's offense this year could put up. Well, that's a good question. What would new poll question? Put on the poll. You phrase it better than me. The question, in some shape, form, or fashion, what would Tennessee's 2024 offense do to the 2022 defense? Is that what we're asking?
Yeah, I feel so bad. Well, the problem with the 2022 defense was the secondary.
So many holes if it had faced an elite team later in the year. And let's face it, with the Alabama game, that was a big win, but they needed some help. Alabama kind of stumbled in their final drive and missed a kick. Missed a field goal. They needed help to beat Alabama. Now I think they can beat Alabama if all things are even.
Yeah, I'm going to do 20 points. 24 runs a lot. 22.
Okay, we're going to tease it forward. Hang tight. With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now, saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Want to be sure to remind you about Rick Terry Jewelry Design, your jeweler with the fire opals. They have that available that are fantastic. And also, we'll tell you about Rick Terry's Grade 8 Garmin Challenge. 2 minutes off the Sports.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2025 Ford Explorer 4x4 Active, $46,529. 24 Ford Big Bend Bronco 4-door, $40,949. 24 Ford F-150 Super Crew 4x4 STX, $46,214.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
If all the natural beauty around here looks a little fuzzy to you, you may want to consider LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Now with 2 Sevierville locations to serve you, East Tennessee's best eye care is more convenient than ever.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
This day in Tennessee sports history, just moments away. 4 things the Vols need to work on during the bye week is on offthehooksports.com. You can read about it or hear more explanation about it. Explanation about it on the program. Also, an SEC head coach thrown completely under the bus by one of his better former players that we thought had a really good career there, but apparently
after he threw his own players under the bus just recently, once again.
Well, yeah, we'll get to all that. SEC power rankings coming up. Week 4 recap stat of the day. So a lot to get to. That poll question that I teased moments ago. What did you settle on there, Caleb?
All right, I'm having fun with this. All right. How much would Tennessee's 2024 offense score versus 2022 defense? Okay. One answer is 20 points. That 2022 team had a good rush defense. 30 points, balanced attack. 40 points, Nico would torch that secondary. 50 points, the 2022 offense would force a shootout.
I agree with the last two. If I had to choose from one, no. They wouldn't force a shutout. I like how you did that. It's 3. It's the third one. Is Nico would light it up. They would win. No offense, Jacob Warren. We love you on the program, or Ollie Lane, who joins us each and every Friday. But this team would smother the other team. And I believe that they would be able to score points. If I had to predict it right now, I would say somewhere in the 50 to 30 range. No, I'll say, let's do this. The 42-24 is what I would pick that right now.
Okay. So you think that this defense is so good they could hold that offense to 24 points?
I do. And I'm willing to admit that I may be in the minority there, am I?
I just don't know if any defense could hold that offense to 24 points outside of the 2022 Georgia defense. And the 2022 Georgia defense is, I mean, look, as good as this defense is, it's not the 2022 Georgia defense. They lined up those defensive backs one-on-one with Tennessee's receivers and said, you guys can't beat us.
Okay. This day in Tennessee sports history, we get to that right now, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Quality Tire Pros. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by a nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd or online at qualitytirepros.com. qualitytirepros.com. Tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said hello. Again, support our sponsors. That's why we're here. This day in Tennessee sports history is
74 years ago today. Tennessee opened its 1950 season beating Mississippi Southern, which would become Southern Miss, 56-0. This is relevant because this was the final crop of like elite All-American talented players of the General Neyland era. It was the third era of General Neyland. And I mean, we're talking Doug Atkins, Hank Loricella, Bert Reschishar, just like names on names of superstars. They ended up going 11-1 that year and sharing the national championship. They were declared national champions by 6 official rankings of NCAA record.
All right, good stuff. All right, coming up later in the program, we'll have Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Last Look, brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. But right now, it is time for 4 downs. 4 things that Tennessee needs to work on in the off week. Boom.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show. 4 downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, here we go. Give me an update on the poll question real quick. 4 things that Tennessee must do if the Vols hope to win a championship. Because you've got a fantastic poll question, Caleb.
All right, so the poll question, how much would Tennessee's 2024 offense score versus the 2022 defense? 20, that 2022 team had a good rush defense. 30, balanced attack. 40, Nico would torch that secondary. 50, the 2022 offense would force a shootout.
Okay.
40 is leading.
Okay, good stuff. All right, 4 things that Tennessee must do if the Vols hope to win a championship. What down is it, Coop?
Coop here, first down.
Thanks, Coop. All right, get healthy up front. Guys, that was what I call a car wreck type of game. And by that, I mean that you've hurt with your bones is the way one player described it to me one time. If you've ever been in a car wreck, and by the way, in all seriousness, we do want to send prayers and a shout out to Mike Stoll, former Vol. I was in his wedding. He was in a serious car wreck, but he's fine. But so maybe I shouldn't have used that analogy today. So I'm going to go away from that. But that's the type of game where you're extremely hurt and sore. I'm glad for Tennessee that they don't play Arkansas this week. Now, more specifically, Tennessee needs to get healthy at the tackle position. Lance Hurd needs to be available. And yes, talking to you, Hurd, I'm not questioning whether anybody is healthy or not, but do whatever you have to do, whether it's stay all night in the facility to get treatment. I don't care what it is. You have got to be ready to go. Tennessee needs you, if nothing else, from a depth perspective down the line. Now, the good news is that Josh Heupel, and I don't think it was a throwaway line, said he expects both him and John Campbell Jr., who was injured in the Oklahoma game, to play. But I think get healthy up front, especially on offense, that could be 3 of my 4 things that Tennessee needs to accomplish this week.
Yes, I mean, I agree. Getting healthy is a big one. The bye week comes at a great time for them. And I mean, honestly, Dave, the timing of both bye weeks, I think, is one of the most underrated best parts of Tennessee's schedule, because they get this bye week. They go to Arkansas. The Heupel's dominant after a bye. They get healthy. Heupel can be dominant after a bye, beat Arkansas easily. Then Florida comes to town. I don't care what the history is. That's not going to be a bruiser game. I don't know if you guys have seen Florida's defense, so they're not going to get banged up in that game, barring a freak injury. And then they get to be fully rested and in rhythm, getting ready to host Alabama. And right after Alabama, they get another bye.
And I want to give kudos to Florida for just a second. I mean, they showed up. I didn't think they would do that. So good for Billy Napier. Very detail-oriented.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Thanks, Coop. Find another tailback in the off week, excuse me. I've got mad respect for Deshaun Bishop and Dylan Sampson. I just think that over the course of an SEC season, you're going to need another tailback at some point. You're a turned ankle away from Peyton Lewis or Cam Selden being in the game. So just think you need to know who that guy is and have a plan for that guy. Let's say in the Oklahoma game, this is the reason I didn't say last week. I didn't think it was important or pressing, is because had Sampson done something or Bishop done something, well, then most likely if that happened in the middle of the game, that player would be asked to play for the remainder of the game because they feel most comfortable in those two guys. But Caleb, at some point, they're probably going to need a third tailback. So if they don't have a plan in place for both players, Selden and Lewis, that were banged up in the offseason but healthy now, they need to have a plan in place by the time they re-begin SEC play against Arkansas.
Oh, absolutely. But let's be fair. Sometimes it takes towards the end of September to find your rushing attack. If you look at history, Tennessee didn't turn to Jamal Lewis until the last week of September when they faced Ole Miss in '97. And then everybody was like, why wasn't he out there to begin with? And not just receiver. A lot of weapons sometimes take about a month. Do you remember 2001? Kelly Washington, 9/11 happened, and then Tennessee got a bye, so they effectively had 2 byes. And then out of the blue, no one saw Kelly Washington going off against LSU, except people like you who were covering practice. Like, you always knew that was going to be a moment, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. He looked incredible to me. As a matter of fact, he kind of reminds me a little bit. I know people love Brew and they hate Kelly Washington, but just physically as a player, they remind me a little bit of each other. Both very physical and possible to play press coverage against, which leads us to
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here.
Continue development of receiver. Okay. Now, I've got no problem if Tennessee wants to rely on Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton Jr., and Chris Brazel II as their primary pass catchers. And if they want to do it like they did in 2022, where those are the only guys out there, that's fine. But I would argue that Tennessee could be even better if they could rotate a trio of receivers in or play more 4 wide. But based off the amount of times that guys like sophomore Caleb Webb, freshman Mike Matthews, those guys, I mean, they didn't play a lot. And we know Squirrel White's role, I think, at this point, which is the backup to the slot and returning punts. So I think that Tennessee could use another receiver if somebody goes down, but more so to be able to showcase some different looks. Like Tennessee has enough tight ends to run the 2 tight end look. Caleb, They put 4 receivers out there at one point during the game, I know, on Saturday, but I don't think it's something they feel comfortable in unless the numbers are really in their favor.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with you on this a little bit. I don't think they need development at receiver. I think they've had, look, this is kind of weird to say. 4 games in, they've been allowed to be vanilla on offense. And I didn't think they would have, I thought they would have to really expand it last weekend. But Dave, they're staying vanilla. Heupel stayed vanilla last weekend. Can you say?
Okay. Well, let me take a time out. Do you see I see a much more varied defense. I see a Neapolitan, so to speak, because like when my wife and I get Neapolitan, I'm like, you can have all the vanilla, but I want the strawberry and I want the chocolate. So to me, the strawberry and the chocolate are Tennessee's offense in the 3 wide, 1 running back look. And then the 2 tight end look would be the strawberry, or one's the chocolate, or one's the other. So to me, they are more versatile this year, and you can have the vanilla. So I think we may be talking about 2 different things. Are you talking about during the game?
Well, yeah, I'm saying during the game they've chosen to be vanilla because they haven't had to expand their offense. So the receivers really haven't been able to benefit from that because they haven't had to use them the way they need to. And I mean, in 2020, last year, they took more shots downfield last year than they've taken this year so far. And it's not because Nico's not better at the shots downfield. It's because they really haven't needed to take the shots downfield. Why show anything? I mean, your defense has been so dominant.
Yeah, and the other thing, remember this, Brent Venables was known for rocking a safety down into the box, and I told you that last week.
You did.
They only did that like 5 times against Tennessee. I specifically watched that, and everybody is playing back because they don't want to get beat by these receivers and Josh Heupel's natural inclination to throw the football.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right, 4th down will be brought to you by Medicare Misty. Her services are free, licensed in over 40 states. MedicareMisty.com. 4th down, just a bit.
I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, here is 4th down. Relax just a bit. If I wanted to be old fuddy-duddy Dave, I could come in and say there's no way that Nico and Josh Heupel and who else? Brew McCoy should have been at the Morgan Wallen concert last night because it's football. No, the guys get a day off. It's a tough physical game. Relax just a bit before this incredible run comes up in which you've got to play Georgia, Alabama, maybe a rising Florida team, but I have my doubts. So, Caleb, I mean, take a chill for a second. Like, for instance, I texted Cooper. I said, let's not do this on Sunday because I know you're sore. So chill just a bit. Now, that ends when they go back to practice tomorrow.
No, I agree, but no, you should absolutely chill, relax, enjoy it for I'll never forget. This must have been 20 years ago. Remember that 6 overtime game when Tennessee played Arkansas? And
yes, I do very well.
Mike Mayock, I think I don't know if it was Mike Mayock, but it was somebody else on the sideline. You know, after the game, interviewing forward to the game, he's like, "Coach, you're 4-1, but now the gauntlet begins. You know, you got Florida, you got Georgia, Alabama, Miami." He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy this win for about another 12 hours or so first. Like, he said, I'll get to that in the morning." Like,
yeah.
And I know people
read the room, Mike Mayock.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was Mike Mayock. I think it was somebody else. He's the only male sideline reporter I remember, because I'm used to female sideline reporters. But it could be somebody else, to be fair. But yeah, it was like everybody is relieved of a win, and Fulmer is like, you could tell he was exhausted, and he's like, I'm not ready to think about Georgia right now. Just let me mentally enjoy this.
So you got I think it's the 24-hour rule, but if you have a bye week, it's okay to go 48 hours. Our poll question, interested, how much would Tennessee's 2024 offense score versus the 2022 defense? 20, that 2022 team had a good rush defense, 30 balanced attack, 40, Nico would torch that secondary lead, 73%, 50. In 2022, the offense would force a shootout. All right, Caleb, stat of the day is brought to you by our fantastic friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition at rickterryjewelry.com. And also our good friends at Sports Treasures. Why do we love Sports Treasures so much? Because they have over 5 million sports treasures, and they're also very easy to find there in North Knoxville. Now, Sports Treasures is offering up a pick six. And what's a pick six? 6 glossy photos autographed by Tennessee's defensive backfield that you can win if you are a member of Hooker's Corner. Not Brainerd Golf Course. All right, Hooker's Corner, your chance to win a weekly prize. And all you have to do is be a paid member for $9.98. And bam, you're in. And we're going to have that drawing later this week. Now, if you want to be a free member of Hooker's Corner, we highly encourage that. And you'll be entered into Rick Terry's Great 8 Garmin Challenge, in which once we hit 8,000 subscribers, which could be tomorrow or the next day, the way things are going, we will give away a Garmin worth over $1,000. All you have to do is be a free member of Hooker's Corner. I'll put that up one more time as we get the stat of the day. Be a free member of Hooker's Corner. Or, and I should say, you have to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. We'll leave that up, Caleb, for the stat of the day. What do we got?
So our stat of the day is a stat from the last time Tennessee beat a ranked team on the road, which was 2006 when they hung 50 between the hedges in Athens. And the total yardage in that game was only 391. The reason that's relevant is that's not far off from what Tennessee gained on this past Saturday. We're calling this past Saturday a defensive slugfest. And 2006, they hung 50 in Athens.
Very good point.
So that was the game at halftime. Tennessee, do you remember Tennessee was actually down 24-7 and came back and dominated? And Fulmer going into halftime was like, I don't know if they can stop us, but we can't stop them. And it was the opposite of Saturday.
Yeah, Tennessee, Georgia did. I think Willie Martinez was a part of that staff, but Georgia did a really interesting thing in which they kind of pulled out a different defense. Teams can do that about once or twice a year and really surprise people. And I think that Josh Heupel did that with some plays in 2022. I think he's done that through his career. Who can forget the Princeton end around on the goal line? But you can also do that with entire game plans. And once Tennessee figured out what they were doing in the backfield, it was all Ainge.
My favorite was you can also do it offensively too. And my favorite was when Tennessee came back to beat LSU in 2005 in overtime. It was the post-Hurricane Katrina Rita game. And this should have shown right then how bad of a coach Les Miles was. Remember, that was the first time they worked Jacob Hester into the passing game. And yes. Bob Davie goes in the broadcast like, you're only going to get away with this 1 or 2 times, but you won't be able to go to the well. And Les Miles was like, no, I think I have to keep going to the well. And of course, that's how Tennessee came back and won, because it got pretty obvious pretty quickly they were going to keep going to Jacob Hester in the passing game.
There you go. That is the stat of the day, and it's brought to you by Commercial Bank. Bank on it. Commercial Bank is member FDIC. Life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial Banks for personal and business. Commercial Bank. Life made better. They bring you the stat of the day.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win.
When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, if you want to super chat us, you can. We don't really ask, but it'll go to Quincy Calhoun, Caleb's 3-month-old son. It'll go to his college fund, and Caleb has promised not to gamble it away, because he's gotten a hold of his problem, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, no, I haven't gotten a hold of my problem. I've gotten a hold of my problem of not gambling right. Okay, now I am still mad at. I darn near threw Quincy through my TV screen on Saturday night by like himself, just threw his head through the TV screen because Dave Aranda didn't know how to call a prevent defense against Colorado, and I took Baylor outright money line in that game. I don't know if you saw how that one ended, Dave.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody loves to say the prevent defense in and of itself is just horrible. It's not in certain situations. There are times where it's very appropriate.
Yes, and it's how you call. You either, here's the thing. And this will be on our Football IQ tomorrow, so I should save it. But let me just say this simply. You either commit to the full-on prevent or you bring the house. But you don't half-A it, right? You don't bring like 5 guys. You either bring like 7 or you drop 9. One of the two.
Right. Knowing that if you bring 7 and you get burned, everybody's going to call you an idiot. But the same way, if they chunk it down against prevent, play by play, you're going to get beat up for playing prevent. But there are times to play prevent defense. All right, I want to get to the SEC power rankings, and this will include a coach that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, and that is Hugh Freeze. But our SEC power rankings that we do each week certainly have shifted a bit. Why? Because teams are actually playing each other now, and you've got the Alabama-Georgia game coming up this weekend, but you had the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. And by the way, for those that don't like the fact that that the SEC might not have a firm grasp of the future schedules, you at least have to give Tennessee or the SEC a lot of credit because they are lining up premier matchup. And I think the Georgia-Alabama game being early is really smart because one of those teams can lose and then come back and be a factor later in the season. But let's go ahead and get to it. The SEC power rankings, are we starting from the bottom? Give me my bottom few and why they're horrible.
Yes, Drake style, starting from the bottom. And number 16 in the SEC power rankings. And I still believe in him. But Dave, Jeff Levy, Mississippi State have to be at the bottom. They are the worst team in the SEC. I think they're going to get better, but I mean, that's Toledo and then Florida. They're a bad team right now.
Yep, fair. And I don't know firsthand, but I imagine that the transfer portal hit them pretty hard after the unfortunate transition from Mike Leach, and God rest his soul. And let's give Florida a little bit of credit for what they did. All right, who's next?
Yes, and okay, so next I've got Auburn at number 15. Not a good football team, losing to Arkansas 24-14. We will talk about the state of Auburn and Hugh Freeze, but I'm pretty sure that team is ready to quit on Hugh Freeze because he's thrown everybody out under the bus but himself. But it's indicative.
Yep. All right, who's next?
Number 14 is Florida. Florida has moved up to number 14. Let's all give them a round of applause.
Way to go, Florida. Perhaps the best collection of talent near you of anybody other than Miami in the nation. And you have made Caleb Calhoun's bottom quarter of his SEC power rankings. Great job.
Impressive, right?
Sarcasm. I feel it.
At number 13 is, obviously, Dave, Florida doesn't have it as easy to recruit as the number 13 team, though, and that would be Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt is just a recruiting giant, right?
Yes,
huge. They barely lost to Missouri over the weekend. Should have won that game. I mean, it's crazy, but Vanderbilt's like 2 plays from being 4-0 right now and a top 25 team. That's so insane.
Now, I'll give Clark Lee all the credit in the world. Who's next?
All right, next is number 12, Kentucky. blew out Ohio. I took the under in that game, and Mark Stoops decided he wanted to run it up in the end, so he punched in a touchdown with like 2 minutes left, which hit the over, which really, really upset me because that's not what Mark Stoops does. But yes, Kentucky is number 12.
Okay. Who's next?
Next is our old buddy Shane Beamer in South Carolina. Say what you want about them barely beating Old Dominion at the beginning of the year and costing it with bad play calling in the LSU game. They're 3-1. At the end of the day, they're 3-1, and they still have that blowout win over Kentucky in their back pocket.
All right. Later on, I want to get to the good stuff. I want to tell you whether or not I think these guys are true college football playoff national championship competitors, because I think there's 4.
Okay. Number 10 is Arkansas. And by the way, Arkansas is poor clock management from Sam Pittman away from being undefeated too. But they did beat Auburn on the road. They look like a good team. The Bobby Petrino hire is working out. So kudos to them.
Yeah, and that's who Tennessee plays next. So be very aware of that. All right, who's next?
Number 9, and I actually could have put them at number 10 or number 11, but it's Oklahoma. And let's break down this game from Oklahoma's perspective for a minute, Dave, because we haven't really done that. Are you frustrated by Brent Venables' quick trigger on Jackson Arnold, or are you saying that Michael Hawkins is better?
Well, it doesn't matter. That wasn't the time to pull the trigger. That's a coordinator, not a head coach. That was not the time. You could have done it at halftime. You could have done it before next week's game. You could have done it leading into this game, which would have surprised Tennessee. And with the new defensive look, maybe you upset the Vols, but that was idiotic.
I agree, and it's also idiotic when people say, oh, Michael Hawkins is the guy because of that fourth quarter. Yeah, when Tennessee was playing a vanilla defense and going up against a backup quarterback that they prepared less for than the starter, any backup quarterback is going to look good in that situation. Okay, so Michael Hawkins didn't prove anything. So I absolutely agree with you. It was a mistake. They're now down to number 9. Number 8, despite being undefeated, Dave, I had to drop Missouri to number 8. You can't struggle with Vanderbilt like that. I'm sorry, you can't. Not at home.
No, I agree. Unless you're Georgia, I'm going to give Georgia a pass whenever they do that until they prove me wrong, until they play poorly at Kentucky and it's a 1-point game and then they choke it. But so far now, they haven't done that against a lesser opponent. Who's next?
And Georgia wins the game in the end. Missouri got lucky in this one. Georgia, yeah. Like Georgia, you're watching them just before I go next, and you're like, okay, whenever they decide to put this away, they'll do it. They don't feel like exerting that effort right now. All right, so number 7 is Texas A&M. It didn't look good against Bowling Green. I could have had them lower, but they kind of finished strong, and so I think they may have their offense. I think they could be coming around now with Mike Elko.
Coming around, yeah, that's what you expect first year, so I can go with that. Who's next?
Number 6 is starting to find themselves is LSU and Brian Kelly. Garrett Nussmeier is putting up Heisman stats. That does not mean that anything will come of it because they have lost. This may not last because I think Harold Perkins is done for the year. But honestly, Dave, I mean, that win against UCLA was still dominant, particularly the second half. And honestly, they were misusing Harold Perkins so badly anyway that as bad as it is that he's out for the year, it's like if Leonard Little went out for the year in 1997, which is to say that sucks, but honestly, you're not using him right anyway.
Yeah, for those that didn't know, he played middle linebacker instead of defensive end. Hit that like and subscribe button. I haven't told you that in a while, so please do that and make sure you've got your notifications on. Ring that bell because we'll have Cooper Warren brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters over 50 years in Tennessee. We get to the top half of the SEC. Who's next in the power rankings, Caleb?
Wait, Dave, we just had him on. You didn't tell me that Cooper Mays married Jacob Warren. You just said what? Cooper Warren. You just said Cooper Warren.
Oh, no. Sorry. Cooper Mays. Sorry. Sorry.
You weren't even invited to the wedding.
No, it's been a long weekend. They make a great couple.
All right, so number 5. Now, you're going to disagree with me because you said 4. I say 5. I've watched enough. Ole Miss is number 5 in my power rankings, but they're a contender. They are a good football team, and they got a good coach, and they got a hell of a quarterback.
I told you that Jackson. Why did you think I wouldn't be high on Ole Miss?
You said there's only 4 teams that are contenders. There's 5.
Okay. Well, I've miscounted.
Hey now.
No, they're a contender. But they would be the lowest of my contenders based off I haven't seen them win in a different way than relying on Jackson Dart's incredibly accurate right arm. I haven't seen 12 personnel out of them. I haven't seen a smothering defense. So, Caleb, who's next?
Yes, number 4, and this is basically by not playing, they dropped a spot, but Alabama's number 4. No shame in being number 4. They're still right there on the list.
They're a national championship contender, and that's our poll question about Tennessee as we get to the top 3. The question I have for you is, Tennessee a true national championship contender? Yes, no question. No, not yet. Maybe I need to see some more. Okay, who's next?
The answer, by the way, is yes, but Tennessee is number 3 in my power rankings for right now.
All right.
Yep.
Why are they not higher?
Well, because, again, my power rankings are who I would favor and who I think Vegas would favor based on what they've done to this moment. And it's one of those where I'm with you. I'm not going to get fooled by Georgia struggling at Kentucky. That's never something that's going to alter my opinions because of what we've seen Georgia do so often. So I can't put them ahead of Georgia. And you can make the case with Texas, and I still think Texas is going to get exposed, but those are the top 2. I might as well just say Georgia's number 2, Texas is number 1. But But
they're both national championship contenders.
Yeah, they're both complete teams. I can't put Tennessee ahead of either one of them right now in my power rankings.
Because of the injuries on the offensive line, or what's holding you back?
Injuries on the offensive line. Right now, Georgia and Texas look a little bit more complete overall. Look, Georgia's win over Clemson is more impressive than any of Tennessee's wins, even though Oklahoma's an impressive one. But Clemson actually looks pretty good now. And look, we have to say this. Texas's win over Michigan, after what Michigan just did, pretty darn impressive.
I'll give you that. But when we go the comparative opponent game, were we too high on Southern Cal's defense when they beat LSU? And if so, does that make the Michigan win? I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole forever, but there's a part of me that doesn't believe Michigan nor Southern California are playoff or championship contenders. I'm taking this a step back. Making the college playoff is not a banner season anymore because they've got 12 teams. It's a good season, but it's not a banner season. A banner season is winning a title. Do you think either one of those teams, and we'll get to the recap of the week, do you think either one of those teams can truly win a national championship?
Probably not, but I actually do think they would be more likely to do so than Oklahoma. And I do have to say that. If you ask, Dave, you have to bet a mortgage payment. Someone's telling you right now, Michigan or Oklahoma is winning the national title at the end of the year. You're putting all your money on Michigan.
I would take Michigan. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. Why one coach is on the hot seat because he's kind of a jackwagon. And also looking back on the weekend, hang tight. Please hit that like and subscribe button and support our sponsors. We love them. They love you. The Last Look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Coming up 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, off the Hook Sports.
I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, BanksJones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, welcome back to the program. Whew. I'll tell you what, seeing some of these other football programs like Florida, for instance, struggle, and I think they're on the verge, despite what happened on Saturday against Mississippi State in a big win, I think they're going to be struggling for a number of years. And I'm not so sure that this program won't be struggling for a number of years as well. It's What the H, and it's brought to you by Work Trucks.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
What the H, brought to you by Work Trucks, and I'll tell you more about them. The What the H, if your vehicle doesn't work and you're a contractor, you need to go to WorkTrucksWithAnXLLC.com. Play this clip from one Hugh Freeze, the head coach at Auburn, and why I should be interested in it, Caleb.
So for those who don't know, Auburn lost to Arkansas 24-14 over the weekend. They are looking like a bad team. They finally benched Peyton Thorne, and Hank Brown came in and threw 3 interceptions. And this is what Hugh Freeze said after the game that I think is just a really bad look. So I'm going to pull this up, and here's exactly what he said.
Unfortunately, this is what I know, and I know that there's people open, and I know that we're running the football, and we got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team.
Okay, why do you say that about your quarterback? Could you ever see Josh Heupel doing that?
Josh Heupel made the cardinal mistake of going to get Joe Milton, who wasn't a fit for his office, and he never once threw Joe Milton under the bus.
He arguably played him more than he should have.
He did. Hugh Freeze made the active decision in the offseason. I don't need to go get a quarterback. I've got my quarterback in Peyton Thorne. After everybody was like, this guy's not your quarterback. He's not going to work out. He's not working out. And now Hugh Freeze is publicly, y'all heard him right there. He's saying, I'm calling the right plays. I'm scheming my guys open. We don't have a quarterback that can throw the football. That's basically what he said. You know, you're trying to save your own job right now, and you're throwing your own players under the bus to do it. And it's rich of him to throw his players under the bus, because when he's like, we got to find a quarterback that doesn't throw to the other team. Well, you had all season. You had the transfer portal. It's your fault for not bothering to do that. And I love Fallout Zone. Very godly of him. Very Pastor Hugh of him, right? To do that.
Yes. Nice line by Fallout Zone. How many coaches are on the hot seat this season? Let's start with Hugh Freeze. And I don't want to get into the whole conversation of the buyout and all that stuff. I mean, I know that's pertinent, but at the end of the day, if your athletic director or your boss at work decides you're fired and you have a contract, well, that's great, but you're still going to get fired eventually. So we can hot seat it for 2025 that he's on the hot seat now, or 2026. But once the athletic director makes that decision, your goose is cooked. That's what happened to Philip Fulmer. Mike Hamilton made his decision halfway through the season back in 2018. So, I'm sorry, 2008. Who is legitimately on the hot seat right now? Do you think Hugh Freeze is? Let's start with that.
I think he is, more than people know, because Hugh Freeze is such a, we'll get to some others in a minute, but Hugh Freeze is such a low character guy. His selling point was that you're willing to look past all of it because of his production on the field. If that goes, you cut bait with him. It's the same, by the way, Dave, when Louisville very quickly cut bait with Bobby Petrino the second time for one bad year, because they're like, you're a bad dude. And we were willing to look past the fact that you're a bad dude when you were performing. But if you're not performing, you don't get that grace. That's why you bring it up all the time. Sam Pittman does get that grace to a certain degree. I mean, Sam Pittman would have been fired last year if he wasn't such a nice guy.
Yep.
And
so who else on the hot seat in the SEC, in your opinion?
Still Sam Pittman, obviously Billy Napier, Hugh Freeze. Right. I think it's only those three. I think Brian Kelly is approaching the hot seat, but not there yet.
I'm going to say whose seat should be hottest on our poll question. And I'm going to include all of those because, listen, the standard is very high at LSU. So, again, they're not going to make a change before the 2025 season. But if their athletic director says, I just don't think Hugh's my guy, then he's pretty much gone. And it's just a matter of time when it happens. Speaking of time, Work Trucks will save you time. If we can pull up that website, I love to see those trucks. They're fantastic. Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle available. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time, less back and forth trips. Trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process quick and easy with Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an iPod body, work bodies installed. Pickup trucks of all sizes and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks, if you're a contractor, no dealership run around Work Trucks. That's a fact. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham with a X, worktrucksllc.com, worktrucksllc.com. Find the perfect truck, outfit it, make sure it fits your needs to a T. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. And Caleb, I wonder how proud the Auburn fans are right now, because you said it and you summed it up. Despite if you think that Hugh Freeze is a kind of bad person that's made some mistakes, or a horrible person that Caleb's heard things that I don't necessarily want to dive into at this moment, either way, you've taken a character risk on him for performance on the field. So this would be analogous, I believe, to somebody one day, let's say, hiring Pete Carroll or Jim Harbaugh. You know that NCAA issues could happen, but you take that risk. However, with both of those guys, I mean, they're championship coaches at college. Hugh Freeze is a coach that has had many good moments, but not an elite coach by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and it's the equivalent of the diva player. Do you ever notice, Dave, guys like Terrell Owens and Chad Johnson, they don't last as long in the NFL as other receivers do, because once they lose a step, NFL teams say, well, they're kind of divas and distractions and they're just not worth the risk anymore. And then you see other receivers, guys like Larry Fitzgerald, that were on a roster till what? He was like 38. And the reason is he was such a good teammate. So even if he's not as good of a player, I mean, he still wins over a lot of people. I mean, the same thing happened at quarterback. People like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were playing well into their early 40s because players loved playing with them and they were great teammates. Not every quarterback lasts like that. It's the same with coaches. Your ability has to outweigh the character drawbacks if you are of low character. And for Hugh Freeze right now, it's not, Auburn's not getting what they thought they were getting in Hugh Freeze.
Yep. That's fantastic comparison. I can't argue with anything that you said. It is time for the last look, brought to you by Camp. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to show the Bill Wallace tweet about what he
said.
Yeah,
let me see that. Yeah, this is fantastic. All right.
This is explosive. For those who don't remember, Bill Wallace was Hugh Freeze quarterback in 2014, turned Hugh Freeze into the star coach, was there when they beat Alabama the first time. And this is what he said about Hugh Freeze on Saturday on Twitter, and it's still up. So it wasn't like he was drunk and regretting it. Okay. So, Bo Wallace said, quote, "We're approaching the point that he's thrown so many quarterbacks under the bus that maybe no one wants to play for him. His offense helped me tremendously put up numbers when I blew my shoulder out, but why is it someone else's fault every time there's a loss? But when there's a win, I watch the press conferences just to count how many times the word I is used. Appreciate what he did for me. My son wouldn't be playing for him, though. I got a story. I'll keep it in my back pocket forever until it's time. Auburn staffers calling my phone incoming. But that dude has never helped me a day in his life. It was always only about getting a win for him so he could collect his extra 100 racks a win. If y'all know the medication and shots I was taking to get that man his money, you wouldn't believe they would let you walk on a field like that. And with all that, I still feel the tires from the bus. Bo's drunk. Nah, he's as sober as could be watching Tate. Just tired of this dude always blaming players every single time. Do your research on his offenses, excluding his time at Liberty. Look at the interceptions every QB he's had play for him throws. At some point when it happens over and over every year, you look in the mirror, not at the players to save face."
Ouch.
That's
explosive. Do you think that carries weight? For instance, I don't know who would do it, but if Hendon Hooker did that about Josh Heupel, that would carry a lot of weight. If Greg McElroy did that about Nick Saban if he were still coaching. That would carry a lot of weight, in my opinion. I'm trying to translate this to any fan base that you're in, but when a standout quarterback, and he alluded to maybe that he'd had a drinking problem, I don't know, but when a standout quarterback, drunk or not, says something like that, a lot of times, much like in a joke, there's always some truth to it. In drunkenness, there's a lot of truth to it sometimes.
Absolutely. There's a lot of truth to it, even if he was drunk. And a drunk Peyton Manning is never going to feel that way about Philip Fulmer. Ever, 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 ever. And you're right. A drunk Hendon Hooker will never feel that way about Josh Heupel.
Now, in all fairness, I don't think a former player should do this.
But we don't know all the inner working. It depends on the type of coach. I don't mind former players throwing Butch Jones under the bus because you know how Butch Jones treated them and what he did. And you knew more about that than I did. And at some point you wonder, sometimes you can't say things because the coach is so high on a pedestal that you seem petty and vindictive. But I think this carries a lot of weight. And I've been low on Hugh Freeze from the start, so I'm very happy to rip him to shreds on this. This is explosive. And I wanted to do just a quick bank on it. But Dave, can I say bank on it? Hugh Freeze won't be at Auburn after 2025.
All right, we can do that. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. Life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial Banks for personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made better. CBTN.com, CBTN.com. I completely disagree. I think that even if he shouldn't, he will, because I'm going to go down that buyout. You might want to Google that and see what his buyout is. I also think it's too quick to pull the trigger on that. I'll say this. There's a reason that Lane Kiffin, who wants the Florida job, wanted the LSU job, would not take the Auburn job. And I was told by a source that was because he likes where his kids are in Oxford. Bull. He knew something about Auburn. Okay. And I think they knew something about themselves, which is why they had to take a risk on character. I don't think their house is in order. And Tennessee fans should know more than anybody. When your house isn't in order, you're going to have a decade of blech.
Well, and Tennessee fans, and we'll talk about this funny enough in our last look, but they should be thrilled because if Auburn's house is not in order, that does wonders for Tennessee recruiting. Particularly if South Carolina's house is not in order, if Clemson's house is not in order, and North Carolina's house is not in order. But so I get that. But Dave, I still think he'll be going after 2025. I mean, you brought up Lane Kiffin. I know people have questioned Lane Kiffin's personal character. No one's considered him a snake towards players, though. It seems like players have always respected him.
Amen. Let's bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. My answer coming up in just a sec.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2025 Ford Explorer 4x4 Active, $46,529. 24 Ford Big Bend Bronco 4-door, $40,949. 24 Ford F-150 Super Crew 4x4 STX, $46,214.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
If all the natural beauty around here looks a little fuzzy to you, you may want to consider LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Now with 2 Sevierville locations to serve you, East Tennessee's best eye care is more convenient than ever.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. It is our week 4 recap as we look back at the SEC. And to me, Tennessee was obviously, and I don't know that this is even debatable, the big winner in the SEC by beating Oklahoma on the road. First time they beat a top 15 on the road since Georgia 2006. What else did you make of the SEC? As we'll have a poll question up here momentarily. Perhaps, I don't know, winner of the week in the SEC? Would you like to go that direction? Loser of the week?
I go all of college football for this recap, and Tennessee's the winner of all of college football this past weekend. I mean, they are the biggest winner of college football. I mean, they dominated a top 15 team on the road. And, it's funny, Dave. Tennessee has played with Nico Iamaleava. They have won 5 straight. They've won 3 of those 5 have been against ranked teams away from home. And they only allowed a defensive touchdown in one of those games, and it was in the fourth quarter after they were totally dominating. And we keep hearing skeptics say, well, Iowa's not that good. Well, NC State's not that good. Well, Oklahoma's not that good. How many times does Tennessee have to beat a ranked team? And how many times are we going to hear that they aren't that good? I mean, at some point, are the polls that bad where they happen to wrongly rank 3 teams out of 5 that Tennessee plays?
With you. All right, here's my 3. And if you want to fill in a 4th, you can. Winner of the weekend in college football, Tennessee, James Madison, Michigan. James Madison hung 70 on North Carolina.
Yeah. President James Madison won 2 elections. But that game is more about North Carolina being a loser, which we'll get to. But
okay,
North Carolina's an absolute loser.
Winner of the weekend. Do you have a 4th you want to put in there? Because I'm setting the poll question.
Let's see. You said, yes, Washington State, because I want to get to why Washington State's a winner.
Okay, I like that. And our last poll question finishes this. Which be the hottest in the SEC? As if you want to hit that super chat button, maybe we can get Caleb some lozenges. Whose seat should be hottest? Billy Napier, 68%. Hugh Freeze, 24%. Brian Kelly, 6%. Everybody loves Sam Pittman. He just gets 1%, even though
he's such a good guy.
No, but he's probably second on that list, realistically, behind
Napier.
Behind Napier. If I had to rank them, I would rank them. What I would say. Napier, Pittman, Freeze, Kelly.
Yeah, that's probably the way it's going to go. I agree.
Okay. All right. Where are we starting with our recap?
Well, that's my first recap. My number 1 was Tennessee. They dominated the weekend. I mean, it's funny. When you go national, you can't avoid Tennessee this past weekend. They are the story of college football, and they're the biggest story in college football right now. I said they would be after the Oklahoma win. I was just wrong in how. I thought they'd be the biggest story because of Nico, and they're the biggest story because of their defense.
Yep. Do you think, based off what you saw, that Josh Heupel is willing to win a game like he did against the Sooners, that it could actually hurt Nico's chances of winning the Heisman?
Yes, and I'm worried about that because I put money on it. But
we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right. Who else won the weekend?
All right. So number 2, guys, Michigan's not done yet. Dave, not only did they beat USC, you want to know how many passing yards they had in the game?
Wait on me.
32. This was a Bo Schembechler type of win, if there ever was one, and they have to be proud if they're Michigan. It was an old school, ground and pound win with defense. You're not impressed. You're like, no, that just means that the offenses were terrible.
No, I think Southern California's defense is very average at best. I mean, I just don't. They can talk about how you bring in transfers or you bring in the same type of recruits with the rankings that other teams do, but the bottom line is you want those big nasties. It's about the guys that are 315 pounds that have great feet. And for whatever reason, with the exception of perhaps Polynesian players that we've seen on the West Coast and in Hawaii, they're more oftentimes found in the Southeast. Now, that's not a rule because I've covered recruiting up and down the coast. I mean, there's an Eddie Goldman in Washington, for instance, but for the most part, those guys are in the SEC. So to me, I think you'll always face that challenge if you're not in the SEC. Continue to recap. The last look brought to you by Campbell Cunningham, Taylor and Hahn.
See every play, even from the upper deck, with LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Guy Caleb, what's next?
Just quick shout outs to Utah, Illinois, BYU. All of them beat ranked teams. Illinois beat Nebraska on the road. Utah beat Oklahoma State without Cam Rising. Utah's a contender, guys. That's an underrated contender. I'm going to get to my top 10 in a minute. But and then, of course, BYU obliterates Kansas State. Another one I just wanted to mention real quick, Missouri survives ugly, and Arch Manning looks a little bit underwhelming for Texas. Those are two SEC disappointments that I took as one. Arch Manning looking disappointing kind of shocked me, I want to be honest.
Yeah, I go back to San Antonio, University of Texas, San Antonio, that he looked so great against. And he's a much better runner than Quinn Ewers. And I wonder, he looks fast, the bottom line is. And you would think Texas, San Antonio would have fast players, but I wonder how much they were caught out of position. And it's his first start. So comparatively, they ran a stat with the Mannings, Eli, Arch, and Cooper. No, I'm kidding. Cooper didn't play. And Peyton. And let's say that Arch definitely had the best day of the four quarterbacks that have played in the SEC and then in college football.
In their first start, yes, but Peyton Manning faced the number one defense in college football for his first start in Washington State.
Right. That's right. I know. Just the SEC, it's funny to me, is their PR department, I think, has expanded by like 30 people. I mean, they're just pushing stuff out.
They are.
Same for Bill Martin, who's doing a fantastic job there at the University of Tennessee. All right, what else?
All right, so a few more. Coach Prime's magic is back, and it's at my expense. That Hail Mary to beat Baylor, largely because Dave Aranda doesn't know how to call a defense with 2 seconds left and a team needing a Hail Mary. But look, Travis Hunter, Dave, he had a touchdown grab, 130 yards receiving, and he had the game-winning forced fumble. I mean, Heisman talk has to continue with him.
You suck, you jackass.
I just don't want to talk about Deion anymore.
I don't like it either, but like they are 3-1, and so it's just it is what it is. Sticking with it, Washington State. It was a week of almost upsets for a group of 5 teams trying to get that group of 5 spot in the playoff. Memphis lost to Navy, and Northern Illinois lost to Buffalo. Washington State held on to beat San Jose State 54-52 in overtime. So they now are clearly in the lead for the last group of 5 spot in the college football playoff, which I know you don't care about, but those games are epic, Dave. I'm sorry if you're watching them.
No, I'm in. I'm rooting for James Madison.
Yes.
Who's next?
Well, that's UNC suffering a humiliating loss to James Madison, giving up 70. Tennessee fans, be excited. North Carolina is ripe for the picking and recruiting. Tennessee has a really unique opportunity right now as we speak to lock off the Carolinas like they haven't done since the 90s.
Yeah, no, completely agree. You've proven you can hammer Dave Doran when he supposedly has a top 25 team. I don't think they're going to end up being a top 25 team. North Carolina's got blown out by James Madison. If you send your kid there, you must not like him. And then South Carolina is going to be making a coaching change with Shane Beamer. Here's the other factor you could say. Well, with a coaching change comes excitement and NIL money, more NIL money. Yeah, I mean, you could say that if you wanted to, but do you think either of those schools can outbid Tennessee for a guy they really want? Like David Sanders, for instance.
No, they absolutely can. And that's why Tennessee's going to absolutely dominate over that region, particularly with, we didn't talk about this last week, Dave, but it kind of came out that Clemson and Florida State are willing to come back to the negotiating table with the ACC, which tells us that I want to give us credit real quick. T. Scott Jones was on our show. He because of him, we stood firm against everybody. Like, oh, that's not ironclad. They're going to get out of it. And we were like, no, they're not. They're not getting out of this. They can't. And that's going to help Tennessee recruit that area too.
No, I agree with you. So, record number of live viewers. So, if you're tuning in, I appreciate that. Hit the like and subscribe button. We're weekdays at 10 a.m. Of course, you can watch the entire show, or you can watch the snippets of it and its own individual forms on the YouTube. Turn the notifications on also if you're on one of our podcast platforms, so that you get notifications. All right, we've got 3 more takeaways. Caleb, what else have you got?
Miami and Ole Miss are the two dominant offenses of college football right now. They're the 2 most fun teams to watch right now. Tennessee's going to catch up, but right now it's Miami and Ole Miss.
100% health. If Tennessee's 100% healthy, how would you rank those 3 teams?
Overall, talent-wise,
best offense. Who scores the most points?
Oh, best offense? Oh, I would say Tennessee then. I would actually say Tennessee. But right now, Miami and Ole Miss have the most fun offenses to watch.
I would say Ole Miss just by a hair, because I like Jackson Dart as much as Nico. And
Lane Kiffin's going to make it fun.
Well, he's just and he's just experienced. I take a little bit more experience, but again, Nico is experienced beyond his years. All right, what else?
Yep. So you're going to do yours a little bit later in the weekend, but yours are projections, and mine are the race right now. My Heisman race right now. Cam Ward leads the way at number 1. He's balling. Jackson Dart's number 2. Jalen Milroe's number 3. Travis Hunter's number 4. And Drew Aller at Penn State's number 5 are my 5 Heisman leaders as of right now.
Can't argue with that.
And my top 10, I'm going to say up front, Ohio State's not in my top 10. They still haven't beaten anybody. Call me when they do. My top 10 is based on your resume right now, and they're not a top 10 team right now. My top 10 is Georgia number 1. Tennessee is number 2. Yes, I got Tennessee number 2. And I got Texas number 3. Alabama number 4. Utah's all the way up at number 5 after beating Oklahoma State. Oregon's number 6. Penn State's number 7. Miami's number 8. Missouri's number 9. Illinois is number 10.
Gorgeous. Great show. Caleb Calhoun's the man, Off the Hook Sports. We want you to check that out. We're going to get Caleb to go to the doctor, and hopefully you can't catch COVID through YouTube. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.